Hi, I'm David Roscoff. I'm a .NET engineer here at the LDS Church, and today I'm going to do a demo on just getting started with .NET Core. So first thing, if you go to VS Code, you'll see Visual Studio Code's official site, and we're going to go ahead and download this and install the stable version for VS Code. I've went ahead and installed it already and have it on my computer, so I will skip the install step. The next we'll go to the .NET website, and here we're going to go to download. We're going to click on .NET Core, and we're going to scroll down until we get to LTS. Difference between LTS and current. LTS is your long-term support. So LTS is the version which Microsoft will be supporting for 5 years from now. The current version is the latest version of .NET Core. This is going to get you the bleeding edge, which may not be supported for more than maybe a few months to maybe a year. With a long-term support, you're going to get a lot of support in terms of being able to, application code support, running support, debugging, things like that. But you're not going to get that much if you're on the latest and greatest. So for us, we're going to go ahead and download the LTS version 1.0.3, and we're going to do the SDK installer for Windows 64 since I'm on a Windows 64. I went ahead and done that already. After you've installed it and ran it, you should be able to bring up a command prompt or a terminal if you're on a Mac, and you should be able to go to a directory. So I'm going to go ahead and go to my base, and I'm just going to create a directory called my first .NET app. Then I'm going to go ahead and go to my first .NET app. And here, if I've installed .NET Core correctly, I should be able to do .NET New. Now, here it tells me that I've went ahead and created my first .NET project. If I launch Visual Studio Code, I should be able to go to File, Open Folder, and I should be able to go to my first .NET app and select folder. Okay, so inside this folder, you're going to see program.cs. So you're going to create a couple of messages up here. We're just going to click yes to the first one, and we're going to click close to the second one. Now you'll notice that right out the gate, you got this program.cs and project.json. The project.json is listing out the dependencies. Right now, the only dependency we have is the Microsoft.NET Core app version 1.10. And then on program.cs, we just have a simple, hey, we're going to write to the console and we're going to say hello world. Now to run this app, I like to use a Visual Studio integrated terminal. So instead of using the command prompt, I'm actually going to switch to use integrated terminal. And if you look here, it brings up the version of the terminal, or the command prompt. And here I can do .NET Restore. What .NET Restore is going to do is it's going to go out to the NuGet repository, and it's going to grab all the packages that you have identified in your project JSON, and it's going to pull them into the project and install them locally. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do .NET Run. This is actually going to run the application. And so here, as you can see, I've run the application now, and it's outputted gave me the output of hello world. If I change this to hello David and saved it and did .NET Run again, it would recompile and rerun it, and I would get hello David. Very simplistic, but it is your simple hello world project. Let's say that I wanted it to turn it into a web application. What would be the bare minimum that I would have to change in order to create a web application? Well, let's go through that scenario. So in our project.json, first we would have to add some dependencies. So one of the things that are new in .NET Core is you have a Kestrel server that kind of is a NuGet package that comes with it that basically creates a server right on the machine, a web server. And so instead of having to use IIS, you can actually use the Kestrel web server. So we're going to go ahead and try that out. So we're going to add a dependency here called Microsoft dot. If I do control, you can see I misspelled Microsoft dot ASP.NET Core. The important thing is the case sensitivity here. And then I hit dot. Now notice how the autocomplete isn't coming back for me sometimes. When it doesn't come back, you can just do a control spacebar, and it'll bring back the IntelliSense for that. So I'm going to do server.kestrel, which is right down there. I'm going to select it. And then here again, I don't have the IntelliSense on. If I do control space, it'll go out and grab me the different versions. And I'm going to go ahead and use the 1.0 version of Kestrel server. The other package that we're going to need in order to just set up a simple web application is going to be Microsoft.ASP.NET Core hosting. Yep. And for that one, I'm going to do version, again, 1.0.0. I click Save. Now Visual Studio Code automatically says, hey, you have changed the project.json. Do you want to go ahead and execute this restore command? That's the same thing as we did before where we did the .NET restore. So if I click here, it'll automatically run the restore for me. And so now I should be able to run here and do .NET run. And I should still get the hello David because I haven't really done anything to initiate the web server. So let's go to my program.cs now. So my program.cs, we're going to go ahead and get rid of this console.writeLine. And we're going to get rid of the using system because we won't be using system anymore. So now we're going to go ahead and use the new stuff we just got. So we're going to go ahead and do a Microsoft.ASP.NET Core.hosting. We're going to then also use Microsoft.ASP.NET Core Builder. And we're also going to use Microsoft.ASP.NET Core.HTTP. Okay, so we'll import those three. You'll notice that there's this green squiggly line in Visual Studio Code. The green squiggly line is basically saying, hey, you're using that, you put in this using statement, but there actually isn't any code using it. When you're done running, coding an application, delete all these that you aren't using because they just kind of help to make the package even smaller if you're not using it. So Visual Studio is kind of doing that ahead of time, just letting you know, hey, there's this using statement and you're actually not using any of the code in it. So in our main, we got to tell it that we need a web server. So we're going to do var host, and we're going to create a new web host builder. Now the web host builder is going to take a few parameters. It's going to take, first we got to tell it what we want to use for our web host. So we're going to say we're going to use Kestrel. I'm going to put this in a new line, just dot use Kestrel. And then we're going to tell it how to configure the Kestrel. And so we're going to create a variable called app, which is going to represent the application builder. And this application builder is going to call an anonymous function. And we're going to say app.run. When this app runs, it's going to be asynchronous because we're going to be getting a request from the web, and we're going to be sending a request back to the web. And what we're going to get is we're going to get a context. And that context is going to pipe to another anonymous function here. And what we're going to do is we're going to wait that context, and then we're going to send a response, and we're going to write an async message back that says hello world. Okay, add some semicolons there. Oh, not that one, because I need to add one more thing to the end of this. I need to tell it to build. And then to the end of this, oh, not that one. I need to add build to the other one. Here we go. Need to add build. And then the last thing I need to do is actually have to tell it to run. So if I ran this now, it would go ahead and, oh, I got to do a new here because I didn't instantiate it. So I'll do new. So here, if I do .NET run, it'll run, but it's not going to do anything. There's no server running or anything. In order to get it all, in order to tell the server to run, actually you have to call the host and I gotta say, go ahead and run this. Now, when I go to do .NET run, it's going to say, hey, you're now listening on port 5000. So now if I go to a browser and I go to port 5000, you'll get hello world. Now I want to be able though to pass in some kind of text on the top here in the URL, and I want it to be able to say hello David Roskoff. So next, how are we going to do that? So we got the hello world, so that part's working, but now we want to be able to look at the path variable. So we're going to go ahead and create a variable called path, and we're going to look at the context, which is, again, is a message of the message that's coming into the web server from the client. And in there is a request. We're going to look at the request, and we're going to look for the path, and we're going to take the value attribute of the path. This is going to give me a string. And so now that I have a variable here, now I just need to add it to my hello world. That's easily done with the new C#. I think it's version 6. I can now just take out world and I can say path. The parts that are important here is the $sign. The $sign is what's saying that, hey, this is a string interpolation, I believe is what they're called. And this is my variable within the brackets. And so now it's saying, oh, hey, I want to use a path variable, and we're going to go ahead and use that in lieu of world. So now if I save this, my server is still running from before, so I got to shut that down using Control-C. So I'm going to Control-C to shut that down. And I'm just going to restart it again. So I do .NET run. So now, if I hit this, I get hello /David Roskoff. Because the path technically starts right after the host name, which is this slash here, it's actually going to return me a slash for my path. In order to get rid of that, I just need to do a simple replace string here. I'm just going to replace that slash with nothing. Now I save it again, restart this, and refresh this, and I get hello David Roskoff. And so there you can kind of see this is just kind of a real quick demo of how to get .NET Core up and running and how to do just a real simple web server setup here. Just 2 files, project.json, program.cs, a few lines of code. Really easy and simple. The only other thing to note too with .NET Core is you'll notice that as we did our first compilation, we got this bin here. The bin directory is actually what's running. This is the compiled DLL here, which is the name of the project, .dll. So vice versa, I could, if I wanted to, I can actually go directly to the DLL and just run the DLL straight as is. And I can do that by just going to the location of it. So I can do bin debug netcore app 1.1, and I could say that I want to do .NET run, and not .NET run, just .NET. You just use .NET and then you point it to the DLL, and it will run whatever is in that DLL, if you spell it correctly. first ... 1 to be dots. There you go. You can see that it's running now on port 5000. And I can take that DLL and I can, and I could publish that DLL to an Apple or a Mac, and I could run it again using a .NET command, and it'll run it just the same. So you get your cross-platform functionality, and I can even tell it the different ways that I want it to build it in my project JSON. I can look here and I can say, hey, I can add another. I can actually have different publishing settings here, and I can say I want to publish a Mac or Windows. I can choose the CPU I want to use, and it's really sick. But that'll be more in the future. That's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this presentation.